the video. And if you want to mute yourself, please, or else if you don't, Melanie will do it for you. But anyway, we're going to change things up a little bit tonight because of a special guest that we have having here tonight that needs to be getting back to her activities. But we're going to talk briefly before we get into the intro about the institute that we've been advertising on Zoom Rock Room since we started, and a little background here of what's happened. The Renfrew Institute for Culture and Environmental Studies were created actually in 1990 at the Renfrew property in Waynesboro, and this group has developed into a very strong group doing environmental studies for both schools, public programs, and of course I got involved doing geology programs for them about that time. And in 2020, after celebrating their 30th anniversary, they were notified, and I won't get into the politics of all this, but they were notified by the other group of the that was at Renfrew that you need to be off this property in a matter of a few weeks. And so they were basically expelled from Renfrew. And when I heard this story, I did talk to the executive director, and told her that you guys aren't going anywhere as far as being dissolved or anything. You're going to move on, and you're going to be stronger than you ever were. And I'm really honored tonight to have their executive director, Tracy Holliday, with us. I believe she's with us here someplace. And we have Tracy with us here. She was. Maybe she hadn't come back yet. Okay.
She's muted, but she's there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I just don't think she came back yet, Jerry.
Okay, so anyway, okay, we'll watch for her to come back on. Thank you there. While we're waiting for Tracy, just let me start out the night with my typical joke. And I think Mel probably has one to counter this too. But wintertime, it reminded me, this is actually a joke pulled out of the treasure chest from a number of years ago. But many of you might remember a famous female skier named Peekaboo Street. And she grew up in Triumph, Idaho. She became a world champion downhiller in the late 90s, won some medals at the Winter Olympics. But anyway, after she was successful in her skiing, the hospital in Triumph, Idaho, thought they would dedicate the new wing of their hospital to Peekaboo, and they were going to call it Peekaboo I See You. Peekaboo I See You. See? A little slow over the old over the counter there. Okay, so I thought it was funny. Never mind. Okay. I'm just trying to think what I should do here with Tracy not coming back quite yet. Anyway, let's move on. We'll watch for Tracy, then I'll just get out. So, hey, this is edition number 95 of the Zoom Rock Room. So I'm Jerry Jones, and
I'm Melanie Tracy.
Melanie Tracy is our fairly new co-host, but she's fitting right in with the gang. So she's here for abuse, folks. So abuse her when you can do that, okay? But the Zoom Rock. Oh, go ahead, Tracy. Yeah, Melanie.
Sure. Yeah. The Zoom Rock Room is sponsored by Lair Architecture. from Lake Havasu City in Arizona, designing for the future. So feel free to email them and say hi to those folks. And then, of course, the Dartman's reports that we actually heard 2 weeks ago. He shared a great video with us, very educational, very terrific. Please feel free to talk to him as well. We know he's on YouTube, and then available wherever you find Dartman. So he's a great resource to have.
And you'll be seeing his latest report coming up here after the intro is done here. Crystal Grove Collective, their shop is in Lower Allen Shopping Center in Campfield. And they are going to be donating some prizes to our next rock room. It's going to be quiz night. We will have those prizes from Crystal Cove Collective, and they're also located in the York area, in Thomasville at the Morning Sun Market, which is open Saturdays and Sundays. I'm going to back up here at this point, and we're going to call in. I already gave them a intro about what's happening with the Institute. Tracy Holliday is joining us. He's the executive director, and I consider her a good friend of mine. She's a strong person. She's making things happen out there, and she's here tonight to really tell you all the good news about the Institute. So go ahead, Tracy.
Okay, well, thank you, Jerry, for the invitation. Jerry is a big figure in our lives. And for any of those of you who know the Institute, you probably also know that Jerry's a featured speaker annually. And lots of you have probably been on our rock hounding excursions. But we have been enjoying a period of tremendous growth and change. 2020 delivered change to all of us, some of it unwelcome. And boy, everyone's been so resilient and adapting. And I'm really proud of our organization for having done that. We navigated the COVID arrival of a pandemic, and I see my colleague Melody in the Zoom room crowd, and Melody helped Jerry stick right through the COVID period with together we did that with a Zoom. It was our very first Zoom, Jerry. Your presentation was our very first Zoom, and we practiced. we had to practice ahead of time. So life has changed in a lot of ways since 2020. And in 2020, in addition to navigating the pandemic, the Institute had an unexpected disruption that caused us to leave our home campus of 30 plus years. And we did that with strength and a plan, and anchored ourselves to the organization's mission, knowing that our work was valued by the regional community. So we left that campus with the goal of establishing an independent nature center. I'm going to see if I'm able to share a screen. On October 18th, 2020, let's see if I can share my screen. Are you able to see that?
We got you.
Yes.
Do you see my whole screen? I don't really, my
Yes.
very busy desktop. We turned in our keys at 1010 East Main Street, where we formerly were housed and served the community with programming at Renfrew Museum and Park. And a year and 2 days later, we settled on a nature center property. And that's a picture of the board president and me being greeted by Earthwalker, our friend Earthwalker, former fearless leader of the Institute, and one of our colleagues, Nora Slick, on settlement day. So it's been a jubilant time, a big responsibility to make the changes that we made. But the property that we purchased is a 40-acre, let me just get to my next set of images here. A 40-acre amazing, oh geesh, I'm such a tech weenie. And I did practice this, so we're not going to use that one. There we go. This property is so beautifully equipped for us to fulfill our mission of education. The mission of the Institute is to guide the people of the Cumberland Valley region to become stewards of their natural and cultural worlds. And one of the ways we do that is through a school program series. And for the very first time ever, we hosted a class of high school students, the AP Environmental Science class, that visited our place to do a stream study. During this period of change, we have allowed ourselves to also expand our service to the community. So new horizons, new things, just a really elevated opportunity to serve the community. Now, we have some infrastructure challenges because this place is beautifully equipped with the Red Run, a 1-acre pond, some fabulous rock cliff walls that Jerry's helped us investigate, really cool karst topography, and we have occupied this place that was once a farm and a residence. So we have to bring it
Tracy,
up.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I don't see anything on my screen or my sister except a very misshapen picture. Or do
Oh.
we looking at anything else?
Well, I just posted Waynesboro Area High School AP Environmental Science class. Is anyone seeing that, or should I
No,
just
it
stop?
looks like the
I'm
fun
just
house.
going to stop screen
No.
sharing if I can. I'm going to just ask you to use your imagination. Thank you for stopping me. So did you see Melody? And
Yeah, we saw that one.
you saw the first photograph?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it got
All right.
concluded.
Well, I'm maintaining my my Tech Weenie title solidly tonight. But I'm full of enthusiasm for sharing this story with you. So the infrastructure work that we have to do has caused us to do some significant fundraising. When we left our former campus, we didn't have funding. We weren't ready to go shopping and purchase a farm. But because of the relationships that we've built through our 30+ year existence, there were people who had invested in our work significantly along the way who were ready to step in and protect their investments and help us continue to protect our mission and fulfill our mission. One of those groups was the Nora Roberts Foundation. And when I asked, I was in touch with organizational matriarchs and patriarchs, historic leaders of the organization. Our first board president is still very much involved. So assessing and getting input from all of those folks, as well as people who had invested in our work, helping people understand we could make this transition safely for the organization with an alternate platform. We're serving students from Washington Township Parks. We launched a new 7th grade program in the Michaud Forest for stream study, stream ecology and forest ecology lesson. That was just last spring. But we do need a home. So this farm we became aware of this farm, and I was in touch with the folks at the Nora Roberts Foundation who had said, yes, we're interested in supporting that effort. And when I said, we haven't identified a place, is there a conditional pathway to getting some support? The reply was, due to a confluence of circumstances, we're in a position to make an if need be gift of $500,000. So in a couple of weeks, we identified this amazing property. We were able to purchase it along with borrowed funds from the seller, began a fundraising campaign with an initial goal of $3 million to help us do things like purchase the property, build a bridge, which is going to be a really significant investment. There's a beautiful little farm bridge, but it won't support the weight of a school bus or other significant sized public vehicles. So we'll build a bridge. There's a beautiful structure on top of a ridge with a view of the Tuscaroras to the west and South Mountain to the east. It is really a spectacular site for us to help people understand, where are you in the Great Valley? I mean, it's a big story, and it can also be a very small story. We'll interpret on so many different levels, both natural history and cultural history. We've expanded significantly into the arts arena. We've had a jazz festival every summer for 33 years now. We've done live dramatic performances in an outdoor setting, which the community loves. And we will carry on with cool stuff like geology lectures, geology presentations, and field excursions. Our roster of activities is expanding and available. If you click, Jerry, maybe after your Zoom tonight, I can send you a couple of links to our website where people can, I'll send an attachment, our calendar of events as an attachment. But that $3 million campaign is well underway. We have secured gifts and pledges totaling just over $2.4 million. So our community really wants this to happen, but we do have a gap. So if any of you are interested in helping us to support our work generally, I think many of you are already supporting members, and also help us be a part of this great big community project. I would welcome your involvement with open arms. Jerry led a geology excursion in 2021. Was that in April, Jerry? When
May. It was in May.
May. Okay. That we actually concluded at our farm. So until we build our bridge, we can't have large scale public visitation, but we are inviting folks for guided visits. We're having bird walks there. The geology walk, of course, was one of the things that we did there, and some student groups. We're just going to cook along with projects and programs that we can do before we get an opportunity to open fully. We just moved in last week. We're in our new space in this beautiful, beautiful structure on top of the hill. I'm still inviting people to sit on a box when they visit me in my office, but we'll get unpacked. And I'm just, it's such a joyful time, an exciting time, demanding time, but really uplifting in all that we know lies ahead. And I look forward to inviting you. Be in touch if you'd like to come our way and see what we're up to.
All right. Well, Tracy, I mean, we all know that success is just not always one person. It's teamwork.
It sure is.
You guys have a great staff out there. I have a great staff right here, right now, with Melanie and I. But in honor of we thinking that you're shooting for the stars here, we have brought to your attention our Milky Way candy bar. Okay.
And I beautiful. And I have a substitute symbol for the sun. We're going for the bright stuff.
Yeah, you're shooting for the stars too.
Yes, absolutely.
So I thank you for the update there. I did get a VIP tour actually just not quite a year ago, and I was really impressed with the whole property, and particularly the ridge where your office sits. And we knew that the Institute wasn't going to fall on your face. And
Yeah, we have that incredible team, Jerry, as you say. We have a remarkably talented and committed staff. We have a board of 16 who voted unanimously to support the decisions that have been made as we've moved forward. And we have a campaign committee that was helping us to lead the way for this really big fundraising goal. So the team is amazing, and it includes, Jerry, people like you who do the magic and help us fulfill the mission with outstanding educational experiences. So thank you.
I look forward to it every year when we get to do our thing out there, and where we take the trips to, and I'm just glad to hear the news and see this all coming about. So
Yeah.
I am going to campaign our Zoom Rock Room members that they belong to this Zoom Rock Room for free. It doesn't cost them to be a member of our room, but you know, any money that you would pass over to us, I'm encouraging them to pass it over to you, the Institute.
Thank you.
Every little dollar helps. It doesn't have to be a big amount. You haven't gotten our $500,000 donation yet. You probably won't get that for another 20 years, but but anyway, I do ask our Zoom Rock Room members to support the Institute out there in Waynesboro, and we do advertise you every show during the intro, which is actually coming up after we hang up here from you. So
okay, well, I'm so grateful for our partnership and our friendship, and for the support that we have in education in our community.
and I'll save this Milky Way for you when I see you in May.
Deal. And I know you'll help everyone highlight their calendars for May 4th and May 6th for a really exciting experience again this year. And we have lots of cool stuff coming up between now and then. So do hop on our website, follow us on Facebook, and reach out to me directly if you'd like to know more about our project or our activities.
Okay, Tracy, thank you for being on board. We know you got to get back to wrapping presents with your volunteers.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time and giving this great update.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jerry.
Yep.
Great
Okay.
job, Tracy.
Sorry I can't hang around in the rock room.
Okay. We'll see you later.
All righty, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Oops. Let me go back here where I need to belong here. All right, let's continue on here. I just wanted to give you a quick update on our website, Jones Geological Services. As it says there, we just added 2 ebooks to the website that you can actually download and enjoy or give to somebody for a Christmas gift. Time Walk was written back in 2013, and the geologic history of Southeast Pennsylvania, and you can download that for $5.99. And we just put on there some gold maps in mostly York, Adams, and Lancaster counties, and the descriptions of the locations, and you can download that and purchase that for $10. So thanks to Sea Lover Marketing for taking care of our website and being really creative and all this stuff. All right, Melody.
Yep, I'm up. So again, with Jones Geological Services, make sure to look at that website. Jerry just said that marketing team is really putting in a lot of, hard work and effort and creativity. So make sure to check that out. But on December 14th at 6:30 p.m., Zimmerman Center in Long Level, PA, Jerry's having a geological history of Susquehanna River. It's program. It's $10 a person with pre-registration, and the tickets can be purchased online with that link there on this page, either take a picture of this screen real quick so you have that link if you want to call or go on that website to pre-order your tickets. Or if not, I guarantee you Jerry can give you all the information for that as well. And then from here on out, the Zoom Rock Room schedule is as followed. Like again, maybe take a picture of the screen if you haven't already have these dates. December 20th is when we'll see you guys again. And we are having that holiday quiz night with myself and Jerry handing out some of those cool prizes like he had mentioned in the beginning. And then after that, we will see you in the new year. We'll see you on January 3rd for an Iceland Spar with Johnny Johnson. After that, January 17th, what is groundwater and its importance? That'll be with me and Jerry. And just like that, we get into February. I feel like that's crazy to talk about February already, but after that, we're into February. And February 7th, we're going to be talking to Vincent from National Park Service as a geologist, and that'll be very interesting to hear. Love our parks and geology. And then after that, late February, February 21st, there's going to be a prehistory along the Schuylkill River in PA with Roger Freed. So like I said, make sure to maybe write down some of those upcoming dates if you haven't already, or take your phone and take a quick picture of this screen so you don't forget what's coming up.
And that February 21st show, that's our 100th edition of the
Woohoo!
So it's going to be party night. Okay, so everybody's going to come here to my house and we're going to have a big party. Oh, I guess not. Okay, we'll pretend. Okay, I want to bring this up to you. You may hear about this in the news. December 7th. That's like tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow night. Big astronomical event. The moon's going to pass in front of Mars. So if you can't find Mars, find yourself the moon and you'll see Mars right beside it. Now, the problem is it's called an occultation. It's also full moon tomorrow night. It's also the night that Mars is directly opposite, in a straight line with the sun, Earth, and Mars. But anyway, from where we're located here in York County, Pennsylvania, you will not see an occultation. You'll see Mars go right below the moon. You'll need to go to Williamsport, Pennsylvania, if you want to see the occultation, where Mars will barely actually disappear in the south pole of the moon. But the further you are north or even west, if you're in the Midwest, you're going to see the whole deal going on here. But from our southeastern Pennsylvania region, it's not going to be occulted. It's just going to be blazing right under the moon. But that'll be tomorrow night, around 10:30 or so. Right there, if you're going to see the disappearance in Williamsport, 10:46. So 10:30, 11 o'clock tomorrow night. Take a pair of binoculars out and look at the two. Oops. And we already talked about the Institute. This is what we've been showing you coming up. December 18th is their winter solstice celebration at Red Run Park, which is just east of Waynesboro. And of course, their birding group on the first and third Saturdays. Check out the website at info@natureandcultureinstitute.org. Okay, and you might be getting some more information about the institute in an email. I know Andrew has a latest edition of his videos to show you right now. So go ahead, Andrew, it's all yours.
We almost made it. 7:31. It just premiered on YouTube a minute ago.
Oh.
I always set it up to premiere right after I show it, but ran a little long tonight, but all good. This is in honor of National Miners Day today, December 6th, National Miners Day. I'm gonna do a little mining. You can see a little bit there. But most of you all know this spot. This is the National Limestone Wave of Light location the Wavelight pit. I was actually with the people that spent the money to actually open the pit, the new pit. There was about 6 professional certified geologists with us, so I made a film. So without further ado, here we go. Give me 1 second. All right, everybody, here we go.
Warning, no trespassing at National Limestone Quarry. Access is only granted to insured Rock Club field trips. Check out the Central PA Rock and Mineral Club, the Friends of Mineralogy PA, or many other great local rock clubs to learn more.
Dirtman here.
With Bill Stevens of the Friends of Mineralogy, Pennsylvania, at the wonderful Upper Wavelight Pit at the National Limestone Quarry in Mount Pleasant Mills in Snyder County, Pennsylvania, digging Wavelight.
And it's gonna be a beautiful day, blue skies, and we've got a special guest with us. Where's John? John, say hi. Hi. John, the geologist who's mined with both of us at Mohawk Valley Mineral Mining in New York. He's here. He's ready to hit some Wavelight too.
Yes.
And we're here with the rest of the crew. Say hi, everybody. Woo! Woo! All right.
Fellas, can you let us have a little peek at some of that Wavelight? Oh, look at that, that's gorgeous.
Look at that Wavelight right there. And we're right on the border. This is a fault right here. And there's fossils all over there where that gentleman over there is collecting.
Wavelite's a phosphate, and it fills in fractures and voids in the Ridgely member of the Old Port Formation. Lower Devonian in age, and resting on the south flank of an anticline, where we have the Tonalaway and Kaiser formations being quarried for road aggregate. And that's all I got to say about that.
We're going to be getting into this rock here. We're going to be getting into this face. So we're going to be pulling out some good stuff here.
There you go.
Woo!
Look at that.
A lot of work.
Was it worth
That
it?
is awesome.
Was that worth it?
That is awesome.
That's the best damn one so far. There you go.
That is so cool.
Huh?
Nice. That's what you're capable of pulling out here. Pockets filled with green balls. So I stepped away from the ledge for a second and walked straight up on the biggest fossils I've seen in this pit yet. Now, this side of the fault is the Wavelight, and that side is actually the fossils. These must have rolled down the hill here. Check these out. Look how big those bracts are sticking out of this rock. That is awesome. I just came across another rock that I believe has a gastropod in it, but I've got to break it out of the rock. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, that's a gastropod. That's a big gastropod too. Holy Christmas. Let's see if we can get this all the way out. There it is. Wow. It's loose, it's about to come out too. Oh. There it is. Wow. That's cool, and it came out of the rock. Try doing that with a Herkimer diamond, it's gonna bust every time. This was the first Wavelight pit opened up here at Mount Pleasant Mills. It's kinda tapped out at this point, but there's always new stuff that you can find, like this boulder here, covered with Wavelight.
However, their average size is usually smaller than that found in the new pit, where everyone is hard at work trying to hit the bigger specimens.
All right, this guy just came across this sitting on the ground. Look at that green. It's coming out.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Great job, man. All right, John has just pulled out some nice size Wavelight balls. These, I don't know what we call these, 1/2 inch. That is pretty nice.
Yep, lemon balls. They're fantastic.
They are really, really good.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
a
I was really wanting today.
$200 piece.
I'm Dirtman,
I'm Bill Stevens.
I'm Geologist John.
bringing the geology to you from here at Mount Pleasant Mills in Snyder County, Pennsylvania. Back to you, Jerry.
All right. Is that it, Andrew? You want to say anything about it, or?
We had a lot of fun. That was the Friends of Mineralogy PA Symposium, day 2. That was the field trip a couple weekends ago. There you have it.
Very good. Wavelite is a kind of a rare mineral in the United States. There's not too many sites around the country where you can find that. So Mount Pleasant Mills is a gem right now for Wavelite. So thank you, Andrew, for another fantastic video.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Mel, do you have any Christmas jokes on hand tonight?
Ooh, Christmas jokes.
Or do you have any jokes on hand in front of you?
Let's see.
While you're looking, let me tell you one.
Sure.
There's our standard alphabet, and people don't realize there's actually a Christmas alphabet. So what's the difference between our standard alphabet and the Christmas alphabet? The Christmas alphabet has no L.
All righty, Jerry. What did the Rock say after it failed its driving test?
I do not know.
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh my. All right. Well, we better move on here before we get kicked off here. Anyway, yep. This is edition number 95 of the Zoom Rock Room tonight, and it's being videoed. Will be on the website later tonight. Our website. Just go to Zoom Rock Room, and you should find most of 95 videos on there. But in the meantime, I do want to move into our program. You guys have been waiting and very patiently. We had a lot going on in the intro tonight. So I met this gentleman when I was still working with York County, as he was just coming out of college, and we got to do a couple of things together in writing a couple articles about the local geology with the York County Record. But I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Kyle Trostle. He has degrees in environmental science and his PhD in geology. Has always been fascinated with minerals. After teaching and helping to teach college-level mineralogy courses, he wanted to try to develop teaching aids to better explain concepts in mineralogy. He currently runs the very, very small business, Stellantis Minerals LLC, that focuses on developing mineralogy teaching aids and educational YouTube videos to go along with the teaching aids, which I think he's going to talk a little bit about tonight. But his main topic is calcite in York County. So Kyle, thanks for coming in here tonight, and it's all yours.
Thanks, Jerry, and howdy to everybody there. Yeah, I just Jerry knows a lot about calcite in York County too, particularly. So do keep me in line though if I say anything too crazy. But let's see. So I think I'm gonna share the screen here. Microsoft PowerPoint. Well, apparently I have to quit Zoom and reopen it in order to share my screen.
Oh.
Huh. Well, let's see. Is there a way I can get around this?
Maybe not. Not sure why that's happening.
No, well, let me try this again.
There you go.
Oh, good. Hey, there we are. All right, so I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about calcite. I actually go into, it's been a while and I
Picture,
haven't used, there we go.
there you go.
This is my first Zoom presentation, so you'll have to give me some slack there. But basically, I want to talk to everybody about calcite and how it's important in our lives, particularly in York County. That's where I'm located, so I'm kind of biased. But anyway, we're going to break this down into 3 different parts. I'm first going to talk about what a mineral is. Calcite is a mineral. Then I want to talk a little bit about why we should study minerals. And then in particular, how calcite has influenced York County and the development of York County. So really, really big picture. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know this, but a mineral is a naturally occurring inorganic solid with a definite chemical composition and an orderly internal arrangement of atoms. And so what I wanted to do here was just sort of go through each piece of that definition, but looking at calcite in particular as the mineral we'll pick on for this definition. So the first part is fairly straightforward, naturally occurring. So if you go out into mines in Brazil, you too can find one of these very nice calcite crystals, splay of calcite crystals that you have here. Can you guys see my mouse cursor actually? Okay, cool. But if, say, you want to make very specific calcite for optical instrumentation, you can actually grow your own crystals. However, this isn't a mineral. If it's grown by man, only naturally occurring calcite is considered a mineral. So that part, fairly simple. No synthetic calcite, only naturally occurring calcite. The second part of our definition is that a mineral is inorganic. So that means a compound or a chemical formula that's not usually associated with carbon and life. For calcite, this is actually a bit squishy. So once again, so we have our calcite from a mine somewhere in Brazil, and then we actually have here an image of a shell. The shell of this organism is made of calcite. And so this is where calcite actually kind of straddles in between inorganic and organic. So the calcite in the shell is actually associated with an organism and life. Calcite isn't probably the best representation for a mineral being inorganic, but certainly the oyster that made its shell out of calcite, the proteins and fats and sugars and things in the oyster, those are organic compounds. We wouldn't even consider them possibly to be minerals. The shell of the oyster kind of in between. So no life for our minerals. This is kind of squishy as well, though, because the evolution of minerals and the evolution of life are actually related to one another. And so this is just a review paper about mineral evolution. I don't expect you to read through all this. There's a lot going on here. But one of the biggest and most important changes on Earth was the oxidation, the production of oxygen in Earth's atmosphere, which was caused by life. And what you have happen is actually there were maybe about 1,500 different mineral species at some point in the past before there's oxygen in the atmosphere. You put oxygen in the atmosphere and you get a whole explosion of all of these new oxide, hydroxide mineral specimens. So a lot of times folks think about how minerals have affected the evolution of life, but life has also influenced the changes and evolution of minerals as well. So that's why that inorganic part of the definition of a mineral is actually a little squishy. All right, here's an easy one. Minerals are solid. In this case, if we have our snowflakes and our liquid water, looking at our snowflakes, those are solid, they're ice crystals, that's a mineral. Liquid water, not so much. So get rid of that. definite chemical composition. Our minerals, we know the chemistry of, and they don't vary too much from a specified chemical formula. So for example, we have, once again, our nice calcite crystal. It's made of calcium, carbon, and oxygen. And so this part is the calcium part of our mineral, and this guy, the carbon and oxygen, is known as carbonate. So our calcite has this formula. However, this part is a little squishy too in our definition. So here's a chart actually of being able to put magnesium into our calcite. And so what's going on over here? We've got temperature on this axis of our chart, and we've got chemical composition here on the bottom. And the gray area are possible chemical compositions of our mineral species. So when we have calcite at low temperatures, you can put almost no magnesium into it. However, as we get to higher and higher temperatures, you can actually start to get more and more magnesium into our calcite crystal. So this is important to know, just that there's a defined chemical composition. However, it doesn't have to be sort of pure. It's not just calcium carbonate. It's calcium carbonate and maybe a little magnesium, maybe a little bit of iron. Some other different chemical elements can be added in too. All right, and the last part here is that our minerals are going to have an ordered atomic arrangement. So our minerals have structure and are crystalline. What this allows is that we can actually have two different minerals that have the same chemical composition, but if we arrange their atoms in different ways, we can end up with different minerals that are known as polymorphs of one another. One of the most common examples is graphite and diamonds. Those are both carbon. However, they are actually, the carbon atoms inside are arranged in different manners. All right, just talking about how we can order some of those atoms in our mineral, we've got our crystalline materials, and in this case, the internal framework of atoms has a regular repeating pattern. This is these are our minerals, so things like calcite and quartz. They have something along the lines of atom A, atom B, atom A, atom B, atom A, atom B. There's also another variety of solids known as amorphous solids, or sometimes called mineraloids, and these lack that ordered structure. These are things like glasses and amber. Iron slag is possibly an amorphous solid, depending on how it cooled. And so those aren't minerals. They don't have that repeating structure of atoms and that pattern. And then there's a third class, which is actually very interesting. These are called quasicrystals. They have a framework of atoms that has a pattern. However, the pattern itself actually doesn't repeat. And I'll talk a little bit more about that just because it's sort of a very nerdy tangent that's kind of cool just to think about. So with our calcite, we have calcium, carbon, and oxygen, and it repeats in this pattern through space. So we have our calcium, then our carbonate, then our calcium, then our carbonate, and you can see it makes a nice pattern. And in fact, although you might not be able to see it, the structure being shown in our pretty Brazilian calcite crystal here, what you can actually see is with a cleavage fragment of a single crystal of calcite, you can actually see this pattern repeated basically all the way from the atomic scale to this is literally a hand sample of calcite. The reason why this is important is it allows us to take advantage of anisotropy of our minerals, which is just a fancy way of saying minerals behave differently in different directions. All right, so those were our crystalline materials, of which our calcite is one. And then I did also just want to mention quasi-crystals because they're really cool. So you can have patterns that repeat. Well, sorry, you can have patterns that don't repeat, but clearly show there's a pattern going on. The most common example of this in sort of art and architecture is known as a Penrose tiling. And so they're actually just sort of a whole new class of solid materials that weren't really thought about for a while and are actually kind of rather new. In fact, in 2011, there was actually the Nobel Prize in Chemistry went to the discoverer of quasi-crystals, sort of like a whole new realm of materials. So very, very interesting. Has nothing to do with calcite, unfortunately, but it's one of the tangents I actually, in making this talk, I thought was quite interesting. All right, so we have our definition of our mineral: naturally occurring, inorganic solid, definite chemical composition, and an ordered arrangement of atoms. So our calcite is all of these things, but here's sort of one of the tricks going on. So calcite is all of these things, so is aragonite, and it has that same chemical composition of CaCO3. So once again, if you look at my two slides here, they pretty much say exactly the same thing. And so these are also a set of polymorphs. And so it's just the difference between our aragonite and our calcite is just how we're arranging that calcium and that carbonate in space. And this actually allows us to take advantage of different properties of our aragonite and our calcite as well. So the calcite's properties arise from its chemistry and structure, from the shape of its crystals, to the hardness of our calcite, to that cleavage that breaks in a very specific pattern. This is just actually the nomenclature for saying what direction the cleavage is breaking in. So don't worry about that. It's just a specific direction in a crystal. We've got the color of calcite. If it's pure calcite, meaning it doesn't have a little bit of iron or a little bit of magnesium in it, it's usually clear or white. The luster is derived from the chemistry and structure as well, and how light interacts with the surface of our calcite, and then the specific gravity as well. These are all dependent upon the chemistry and structure of calcite. So, all right, so we talked a whole bunch about what a mineral is and how calcite's a mineral. Just a bit of nomenclature here. Our calcite is a mineral. The calcite is actually a member of a larger group of minerals, however, known as the carbonates. And what they all have in their chemical formula this carbonate ion. So this is CO3. You'll see it a lot in a variety of chemical formulas. Some of the other members in this carbonate group: aragonite, dolomite, magnesite, and there's actually quite a long list. Our rocks are actually composed of minerals, and the rock that is composed primarily of calcite is known as limestone. All right, so calcite's a mineral, it's a member of the group of carbonates, and limestone is the rock predominantly composed of calcite. You can also have dolostone, which is a rock predominantly composed of dolomite, but we're going to sort of focus on limestone with the importance on calcite. So you'll hear me say those words sometimes a bit interchangeably, but I'm going to talk a lot about limestone coming up. But remember in your mind, limestone, rock mostly made of calcite. So, all right, so calcite is a mineral. Why should we care? Why should we pay attention to minerals? Well, there's a variety of reasons. They're pretty much everywhere. They also tell us about processes and how how climate has changed over time, in particular for calcite. There's economic value to minerals. We can also use our minerals to help us develop new materials. So there's sort of natural materials, and then you can make synthetic analogs, which are useful for specific things. Minerals are often important to biology and health. And then there's also just the part of this where I'm sure everyone appreciates here, is that sometimes mineral specimens are just darn pretty. So why should we care about calcite? Well, one thing calcite does good is it's a recorder of environmental processes. It's a very important part of the economy. We can use it as a teaching aid. It's important biologically, and it's also beautiful. So we'll go through these just more in depth. So here is a picture of a soil forming on the island of Hawaii. There's a basalt lava flow here. And what essentially you're seeing is all of the white material, that powdery coating, are a series of carbonates, mostly it being calcite. And what this calcite is actually telling us is about how much rain has fallen here, and then the slow development of this soil over time. If this were an area where there was a lot of rainfall, we wouldn't even have any carbonate here. It would all be flushed out of the basalt. So our calcite is actually telling us, hey, this area of Hawaii has been dry for a significant amount of time. So one thing calcite can tell us, calcite also a big part of the economy. So here we have an image of York. All right, you got 30 going east-west in this direction, and 83s going north-south over here. I initially did part of this talk for Penn State York, so what I'm gonna focus on here is, all right, so here's a yellow circle that's about the size of Penn State York's campus. Taking a look at this image, we see two other big things going on in the city of York, well, and the surrounding environment, that are bigger than the campus at Penn State York. One of these is a flooded older quarry, and another is the Roosevelt Quarry, which is currently operated by York Building Products. And both of these quarries were going after the same thing. They were going after limestone. Zooming out to the bigger picture, once again, we're still looking at York here. You can see a whole series of either these active quarries or older flooded quarries as well. They form this nice band, sort of moving in a mostly west-east direction. But these are all actually hunting down limestone. We'll talk a little bit more about why limestone is ideal for a variety of things, but part of it is because of the properties of calcite. All right, calcite, a big part of the economy. It's excellent as a teaching aid because it has these very nice cleavage planes that actually show what's going on at the micro scale is actually what's going on at the bigger scale of an entire crystal as well. Here's the part where I think Johnny Johnson's going to be ready for talk in January. So our calcite actually is very important in the development of modern optics theory. And so when you have an image and you view it through calcite, that image will actually be doubled. And so I'm just gonna leave that all for Johnny Johnson. So that should be a shout out to him for his talk on Iceland Spar. It's actually one of the important, there's a lot of importance actually with what's going on here that makes our modern world possible. But I'll leave it sort of there. Calcite has some unique properties. All right, biologically important. As we saw before, we have our shell of oyster here, and that is predominantly made of calcite, protecting it from being preyed upon by critters. So calcite often useful for biological purposes too. And once again, I personally really like this image of calcite. I think it's quite pretty. To each their own, though, on the beauty front. So, talked about what a mineral is, why minerals are important. Now let's talk about how calcite in particular has influenced York County, since once again, I'm biased about York County. So going out to the really giant picture of what's going on. This is a satellite image of the state of Pennsylvania just from Google Earth. What I want you to notice, however, there's sort of 3 different types of colors that we're seeing here. There's sort of a dark green in a variety of areas. Those are predominantly forests. Then there's sort of a lighter green color in a variety of areas as well. Those are predominantly farms. And then there is sort of gray, whitish coloration going on. These are cities and towns in Pennsylvania as well. So going to a map of the geology, you can see pretty quickly that the geology map and our distribution of forests, farms, and urban areas actually has some correlation between them. In particular, this orange and pink that we see here, a lot of those rocks are actually carbonates, limestones, dolostones, in addition to other rock types as well, but there's a large proportion of those that are these carbonate rocks. And what those carbonate rocks do well is they weather more rapidly than some of the other rocks. What this means is that these are often the bottoms of valleys, and these form deep, well-drained soils that are useful for farming. So let me actually go all the way back. So once again, the location of the areas that are most conducive to farming is related to the geology. In particular, some of the best farmland is developed on carbonates. All right, so our soils and our good farmland, it's not just carbonates though, there's a lot of other factors going on here. So you have, in developing a soil, you have to think about the parent material, climate, topography, biota, and time. And so some of those interact together in interesting ways. The parent material also helps to determine the topography that we see. As I said before, the carbonates weather more quickly, and so they tend to end up the valley bottoms when we're examining the topography of the area as well. So our limestones and calcite help us, well, our limestones and calcite control in part the development of these nice soils useful for agriculture. The limestone is also going to be important in thinking about the geologic hazards that we have in the area. So this is a map of karst features in south central and southeastern Pennsylvania. In the blue, there is the carbonate rocks and where they're located. So these are mostly predominantly limestones. There's some dolostones there too. And then there's a map of sort of the green and yellow and red is showing the density of features of karst terrain. But the important thing in thinking about this, we'll zoom in a little bit here on York. There's this nice band running east-west of our carbonate rocks. Looks kind of similar to this from earlier, doesn't it? So really the quarries are actually after these carbonate rocks more than just about anything else. But the important thing going on here is that when our calcite in the limestone reacts with acidity, usually in liquid, the resulting products are also in liquid as well. So our solid calcite reacts with water and acidity and ends up dissolving away into solution. So what ends up happening is then you have sinkholes, particularly in this band of carbonate rocks. Rainwater gets a little bit of acidity from carbon dioxide and sulfur and nitrogen in the atmosphere. This eats away at the carbonate rocks, and depending on drainage patterns and previous joints and rocks and things of that nature, you can develop sinkholes in particular areas where that acidic water flows through. And occasionally, well, things fall into the ground in these regions. So we have, on the one hand, the carbonates provide us with these nice, deep, well-drained agricultural soils. On the other hand, they also provide us, unfortunately, with this hazard of sinkholes, caves, and karst topography in general. All right, and then we'll talk a little bit about why those quarries are actually focused on quarrying limestone. So limestone is great for a variety of purposes. It's excellent as an aggregate and building material. Part of the reason for this is calcite is respectively soft. And so if you're going to use this on equipment and grind up rocks to a particular size that you want, limestone is a good way to go about it. It's softer than steel. It's not going to mess up your equipment as quickly as, say, harder rocks might. So it's great as an aggregate. It's also good as an aggregate because if you have to choose to breathe in rock dust, don't breathe in rock dust. But if you had to choose, rock dust coming off limestone is way better than rock dust coming off silicate rocks in terms of just your lungs and health. So don't breathe in rock dust, but if you're going to generate dust, limestone dust, better than silicate dust. And then the thing more specific to our carbonates and limestones is the production of lime and cement. So there's a whole, you could basically do an entire talk on specifics for cement production and the chemical formulas of different types of cement. But one of the base things you need is limestone to generate the binding material for cement. So the way that works, we take our calcite, we heat it up, and what ends up happening is we end up with this lime powder, and CO2 goes off into the atmosphere. So we can use this lime. It's a strong base. So in addition to being useful for things like cement, concrete, and mortar, it also is useful for processes like wastewater treatment if you need to raise the pH of water, or other industrial processes where you might need a strong base. I'm not sure if Gladfelter uses any lime for any of its processes, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. All right, so this is something kind of specific to calcite. Any rock might be a good rock to grind up and make an aggregate. However, this is something specific to our limestones and the chemistry of our limestones. And this has been going on in York County for a long time. So I hope people have gotten an opportunity to see the Wrightsville lime kilns. These have been abandoned for over 100 years. However, abandoned almost 100 years ago. And however, they're part of this history of quarrying limestone to produce lime, which can then be used for cement, mortar, et cetera, et cetera. The word lime always gets a bit confusing. The calcium oxide is chemically what one would call lime. Oftentimes, though, limestone is ground up and called lime. So there's a bit of a confusion around the word lime. You wouldn't want to actually put the calcium oxide on your soil. That would be bad for it. It's very basic. But you can grind up limestone itself and spread it on a soil for, say, your lawn or a garden. And what it does is it neutralizes soil acidity. Back to our previous equation, we take our calcite, add some acid, produce bicarbonate and calcium, which go off into solution. And plants also really do like calcium. So sometimes if you have a calcium deficient soil, adding limestone ground up is the way to go as well. All right, I've got one more thing here. And this you might not think as much has to do with limestone, but it surprisingly does. And that's magnetite, iron ore, and iron production in York County. So our magnetite is this mineral we've got here. It's iron oxide. It's not completely oxidized. The completely oxidized one is hematite. That's red, usually, sort of ochre. But so we have magnetite. This is one of the most important iron ores in Pennsylvania, and it's particularly important in Dillsburg, which is where the majority of iron ore in York County was mined. So the Dillsburg iron mines were a magnetite deposit of the Cornwall type. So this is a very old printing map of the mining district outside of Dillsburg. But the interesting thing about magnetite deposits of the Cornwall type is that, I got too ahead of myself. Well, here's a map actually of similar rocks. So these are where diabase has intruded into, Anyway, so our magnetite deposits of the Cornwall type are essentially occurring when an igneous rock known as a diabase intrudes into a limestone. So that's basically, we have these igneous rocks right around Dillsburg, and if they hit a limestone, a specific chemical reaction can be set up so that you actually produce a whole bunch of this magnetite. So we've got these rocks around Dillsburg, they're around Cornwall, they go all the way over by Reading. Some of the important iron mines in the area are of this Cornwall type. So basically what happens is we have our igneous rock. I don't want you necessarily to read this whole thing here, but basically to make a Cornwall type magnetite deposit, you have the hot igneous intrusive rock run into carbonate rocks, and then there's a whole bunch of chemistry that goes on where effectively you start to precipitate all this magnetite and pyrite. So interestingly, the location of the iron ore in York County is actually kind of controlled by where limestones were as well. And then there's another piece to this, and that is that lime is actually an essential ingredient in taking those iron ores and turning them into iron. So here we have an image of the Codorus furnace. I hope people have gotten to go see this at some point in time too. It's one of the better preserved ones in the area of the iron furnaces. But all right, this next slide, the chemistry might be a little bit scary. It'll be okay. There's a lot going on to make iron. But effectively what's going on here, we have our iron ore of our magnetite. It has impurities in it, oftentimes silica, silicates, sometimes other things as well. What we end up doing is we add lime to it. And what this allows us to do is draw off those impurities from what we're interested in, our iron. We also have to have in a reducing gas. In this case, this is carbon monoxide, and heat this all up to a hot enough temperature where these reactions can proceed. And what falls out, we end up with metallic iron, iron slag. This is a simplified version of iron slag. Sometimes it depends what the impurities are as to what the actual iron slag is, and a whole bunch of CO2 goes off to the atmosphere. So, all right, there's a lot going on in that slide. All good if that's a little bit too complicated, but effectively, we also need lime in order to make metallic iron. This was an important part of early industry in this area of Pennsylvania. So, really big picture, we talked about what a mineral is, why we should study minerals, and then focused on how calcite has influenced York County and our lives. Once again, really big picture, got definition of what a mineral is, why should we study minerals, and then these big areas where calcite is actually pretty important in how York County operates. All right, I think I got just about everything. And then the last thing I wanted to say was just, so here's my contact information. If you want to talk to me, snelliusminerals@gmail.com is probably the way to go. Have this nice little slice of quartz, and it's viewed with a polariscope. There's some fun things you can do with minerals and optics. So this is the little business I was trying to start, trying to make very specific mineral specimens to highlight concepts in mineralogy. So I've got a series of YouTube videos looking into very specific things you can do with slices of quartz crystals, a variety of other things. But yeah, thanks everybody. I think that's all I had to say. Feel free to reach out to me, particularly if you have any thoughts on what might be a good concept in mineralogy to talk about or make a little kit about. That's kind of what I'm working on now. There we go. Thanks, Jerry.
Jerry, I don't think we can hear you. But if anyone else has any questions for Kyle, please feel free to leave them in the chat box. And then Kyle, maybe you can look through those. And if any seem of interest to you, or you have the answer to those, which I'm sure you will, you can answer those for anybody in the audience who might have questions, follow-up questions for you about calcite.
Absolutely.
This is Johnny Johnson. I'd like to thank Kyle for a nice presentation and for not stealing my thunder for January. He contacted me last week, and I was really impressed that we could coordinate a little bit, which helps, I think, the quality of both presentations, because I'll be taking you literally to Iceland. And just in that map that he showed of all the old quarries throughout almost the city of York proper, I remember years ago collecting beautiful calcite crystals in the Delta Carbonates quarry. And I'm not sure which one that is now. I think it's behind one of the shopping centers. And we operate, we take the non-chemical rock at they call it the Baker Quarry, but now it's Magnesita, which is in West Manchester Township. And so I'm with Vulcan Materials. So we take what they reject and just use it for crushed stone for highways and stuff. But they take the good, consistent dolomitic chemistry, dolomite rock, and they make a dolomite refractories to be used in all kinds of furnaces and industrial processes at that plant, just west of York, off of 30, where the it's a rudder station.
My
there,
plate's out here if you want it.
and anyway, so it's those uses of not only in making the iron or steel, but in making the bricks that are used to make in the furnaces for iron and steel. It's kind of neat. And of course, my location, I'm over in Hanover, so I'm at a substandard location because I'm in Adams County. But it's an old Bethlehem steel quarry with dolomite and high calcium, and we make the pulverized limestone, and we make the roadstone. A lot of it used to be used in steel, and some of it's still used in power plant flue gas desulfurization, high calcium to take the sulfur out of the fumes and make gypsum as a result. So that's a great presentation. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
I don't think we can still hear you, Jerry. Nope.
Well, I'll say something. Thanks, Kyle. Very informative program. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, indeed. Answer Johnny Johnson's question about the Delta carbonate. That's the, Kyle did refer to it as the York Building Products quarry behind the Olive Garden. And the background that I have, oops, I got that background behind me is the Kinsley quarry in West York. That is now yielding some of the best calcite crystals in the country. That's supposed to be kind of secret, although it was in a article within the Mineralogical Record magazine recently. So anyway, okay, no other questions. You have one more joke, Mel?
I have one more joke.
Go ahead. Give him one and I'll give him another.
Okay. So a man had a girlfriend and she was a geologist. So for their anniversary, he got her a limestone jewelry box and it had great sentimental value.
I'm still thinking Christmas, but
I was thinking limestone.
when Santa Claus takes a break by working in the North Pole, it's called Santa Paws. So anyway, speaking of which, this is a good into our next program is going to be the holiday quiz show. The questions will be Christmas themed. Ones that were with us last year, you might remember one that we did last year with Christmas locations as what Christmas, and so like Christmas Ohio or whatever. Of course, there's a Christmas Island, but we're also going to include this time around a little bit of astronomy included, and how that affects or how that's associated with Christmas. So bring your brains. We are going to, as I said, we are going to give out prizes with that. Another great program. I'm going to get off of here and process the video and get it on the YouTube and our jonesgeo.com website. Melanie, go ahead and end this here.
Alrighty. Well, again, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Dirtman, and everyone else who had speak. Tracy, I know she's no longer on here either, but she did a good job as a introduction for us at the beginning. And I guess we will see you all on December 20th, I believe.
Okay, we'll see you, everybody. Thank you, Kyle, again.